Hey all, and welcome back to Fuzzy Dirts Gaming and episode 2 of the Zero to Hero for the Rakiata's Dance Smite Slayer. Last episode, I farmed the currency to get a framework of a build going, and this was easily enough to take down the pinnacle bosses, get my non-unique Atlas completion finished, along with opening up the 5th map device slot by completing the first 10-way. Clear is really nice, single target is still pretty lacking, but it's good enough for the content that I want to run at the moment. I also picked up a few of the favourite slots along the way, but we've got many more to unlock. Now the goal of this episode is to farm enough currency to transition to crit, and hopefully end up with a character that's got around 15 to 20 million max DPS when all of the buffs, flasks and tinctures are up. Now there were still quite a few small upgrades I wanted to make to the build to make it more comfortable farming currency. I ended up buying a Lethal Pride jewel for 1 divine, but I stupidly on POE searched for the wrong jewel socket. So it does the job, but I could have got a much better one, making more use of the right jewel socket on the tree. So I will need to replace it at some point. I did get a new ring, and then I essentially just re-rolled the helmet, gloves and body armor that I already had to get better stats on them. I ended up purchasing an Enlightened level 3 so that I can easily run 350% auras and a precision. Now, as you saw from the Pinnacle boss footage, I got super lucky and got forbidden jewels from both the bosses. These sell as a pair unidentified for 11 to 12 divines. That alone is enough to purchase all the upgrades that I want to take the build to crit, but this certainly isn't going to help people following along. So I've carried on my deli farm, but I've been able to make it a bit tougher since my character is now better, and I have more currency to not worry about a bad run of drops when using the Paranoia Scarabs. So what we'll do first is go through the POB for what I want to aim for this episode and just discuss a couple of points. Once that's out of the way, I'll go over the loot farm that I did in terms of the strategy, if you can even call it a strategy. We'll go through it in a bit more detail, and I'll go through what sort of currency I was getting, but it is earning decent currency considering I've only got 2 voidstones and a very small supply of maps. So firstly, let's go into the POB for what I want to achieve for the character, and just go step by step through the items so people can understand what I'm looking to upgrade and why. Actually, let's go through the Atlas strategy I'm using first. We're going to do a quick map example, then we'll go through the POB and we'll go and buy the gear that I need to transition to crit. So it is a very simple Atlas tree. I've only got 5 of my favourite slots unlocked. I can't do my usual city square with toxic sewer because city square is only T15, so I probably wouldn't drop many of them. So again, beach and ashen wood both work fine. What we're doing is we're using 3 scarabs of paranoia and 1 scarab of mania, and then just an out map. The Atlas tree, we're taking all of the deli chance because that allows me to run an extra scarab. Other than that, it's literally just taking quantity, rarity, scarabs and maps, and that's it. It's very, very simple. I'll put the tree in the video description, but if you've got access to, your 4 void stones and things like that, this is probably not that optimal because we're really just getting most of the currency from the deli rewards. And then we're taking singular eternity just to slow the fog down to make it a little bit easier because our build isn't the best. So we'll go and we'll run through a beach map. So it's 3 paranoia scarabs, 1 mania, and then just Syrian Exile or Worlds, whatever invitations worth more currency. And then the idea is to kind of get to 6 layers of rewards if you can. Kill the boss, that will take you 7, and then you just leave. It's pretty simple. We've really only got altars in just because you have to pick Exile or Eater for the invitation. If you do get something good, then great, but we're kind of not really banking on it because we're not taking any of the nodes other than kind of just putting it on the map device. So we can take this because giving the boss armor is no problem at all because we're pretty much pure elite. I haven't died for a while, doesn't mean you won't, but I'm not too worried about taking deaths at this stage. It's more about farming currency. I've not really been doing much with King's March, so we've got a few 100,000 gold as well. So Ignite, we aren't actually Ignite immune, but it doesn't normally do too much damage when you can leech through it. And then it's some more Chaos Orbs. So what I'll probably do at this stage is look to get to 6 and then go and kill the boss. So we're not a million miles away. So again at 6, so I'll go and kill the boss because I don't want the delirium to run out. Forgot to activate my tincture. So yeah, the damage is not amazing, but it's kind of good enough. There is one change that I've made in preparation for the build being better. That is that I've dropped the fortify nodes. The reason being is, as you've seen when mapping, we keep fortify up anyway. That's because stunning hits fortify, and you're going to get stuns on most like normal magic and some rare enemies. What I've got for bosses, which I forgot to hit, is Vigilant Strike, which basically gives me fortify for 8 seconds if I need it. So if I get to the boss like this, for example, and I didn't have my fortify, I forgot to do it, you can just hit Vigilant Strike. That gives you for 8 seconds. That then gives you onslaught from the belt and just makes the build feel better. So we'll go along and we'll just demonstrate the fortify. It's probably not going to happen on a rare monster, to be fair. As you see now, we've got 20 fortify for 6 seconds because we fortify melee stun. Then if I wanted to hit Vigilant Strike, I can, and then that gives me a longer fortify. Got a Nameless here. He will give me absolutely nothing. So what I'd normally do is just kill the boss, end the delirium, collect the loot, and then go back in. So you can see from this one here, we got 1 delirium orb, 2, 3, 4, 5 delirium orbs, 7 stacked decks, and then some random bits of currency. I haven't really collected any cluster jewels unless they've been like big value ones. And then we'll just quickly go and sell the loot. I'd obviously normally wait until I've got more bulk, but just to show you that Deli orbs still sell really well. So the fine ones normally sell for like 12 or 13. So yeah, we could definitely sell these for 13. So I'll put these up for 26 for 2. These ones may not sell because they're not very common. So we'll just set it for 10 C and we'll see what happens. We've got a map one which go for a little bit more. I don't think they're that much, but let's just double check. So if we just said we had 5 on trade. They are, apparently they are about 15C. So let's see what we're going to do with this. We'll set it for, I'm not greedy, we'll just set it for 18 and see if it sells. Then we've got a jeweler's one, which we should be able to sell for 9. Might not sell it straight away, but they'll sell. And that's kind of what I've been doing. And as you can see in terms of the currency, we've got a stack of chaos. So you do need to spend money on the Scarabs, but you'll easily make more than that every map because you're going to drop delirium orbs. And basically 1 delirium orb pays for 2 Scarabs, and then the more layers of rewards you get, the more likely you are to get things like stacked decks, which also sell really well. So if we go and have a look at these and we just sell the 11 or 18 now. Stacked decks we can instantly get 1.63 for them. So it'd be something like 28, I guess. We'll just sell it for that. It's fine. And then we sold those and got 3 back because it didn't quite fit the right equation. And yeah, that's kind of what I've been doing. I've just been doing that the whole time. Is it particularly exciting? No, but it earns really, really steady currency. And if you are needing to farm about 10 to 20 divines on 2 voidstones at this stage of the league, this is a great way of doing it because your deli orbs will sell really, really easily on the exchange. You're going to get things like currency. You're going to get cluster jewels. You're going to get things like fossils that actually sell quite well on the exchange as well. So overall, just really enjoyed this as just a simple laid-back currency farm for a character really that's going to be made for mapping and not necessarily for bossing. So with that out of the way, we'll jump into the POB, we'll make the upgrades, and then we will transition to crit. So this is the rough path of building for the gear that I want to get and how I want to set the character up. We are going to stay for now with the Vigilant Strike for Fortify and then just stun to get it when we're mapping. Eventually, you could get Fortify implicit on the sword, but at the moment, there are about 20 divines for a decently rolled one. You essentially can get a corrupted implicit where socketed gems are supported by level 10 Fortify. So you then put your main 6 link in here. That sorts fortification out on hit. But for now, I'm happy just Vigilant Strike every now and then on a boss. And other than that, stun looks like it's going to get me the Fortify that I need. So what changes are we making? So the tree's going to change quite a bit. We are going to need to fit in a reservation cluster jewel because we're going to go crit. We want to run a really, really high level precision. We can't really squeeze that in unless we get reservation on all the gear. So the easy option is just to get something like Sublime Form to give Grace extra reservation efficiency. In terms of the gear, we're going to add a crit tincture in, which is going to be crit chance with melee weapons, something like attack speed or crit multi as a suffix, along with increased cooldown recovery. We're going to drop the Jade Flask. We're going to have a Granite Flask with evasion, Quicksilver with armor, and then just a normal life flask. And then we're going to have a Diamond Flask with crit. Because we don't have to curse because of our sword that reverts resistances, we can run Assassin's Mark, so that'll give more crit and more crit multi on unique enemies. We are going to run Ralakesh's Impatience, so that means that we count as having our maximum frenzy and endurance charges. We're also going to run Replica Badge of the Brotherhood, which essentially sets your max endurance charges to your max frenzy charges. None of the downsides will matter because we don't need charges, because Ralakesh just basically counts as your max. The reason we're doing that is because I want to take this node here, which gives the base crit of our weapon to 8%, because at the moment it is 5%. There's nothing we can do to get that any higher. It's a unique. We want to use it because we want to build around it. Without setting this to 8%, we're going to have real struggles to get our crit anywhere near sort of 70%. But because the combination of Ralakesh and the amulet, it means we no longer need Masterful Form. The amulet basically replaces Masterful Form. We're going to put some sort of anoint like high voltage. This basically gives you a 100% crit chance on shocked enemies. We're going to run a taming ring because we're going to be shocking and chilling at least. So that's going to give us 2 ailment types. If we can just find some sort of fire damage on the amethyst ring, that then gives us 3 types. So we get a big boost from the taming. Going to use some turbulent catalyst on it as well to get all the Ellie stuff up. This is going to be a massive damage increase. It may be that later on I just decide that I don't need the extra damage and go back to a rare ring, because we are going to be slightly short on life with this variant because of all the uniques that we use in. We're going to re-roll the amethyst ring so we get some big life on it. So again, we'll just do the same, re-roll chaos in harvest. This might take a bit, it might take 2 to 3 divines. Basically just want to get big resistances. We are going to need non-channeling on it as well, especially if we do end up going for the sword with the implicit. We are going to really struggle for mana cost, because that level 10 fortify will add to the mana cost of the skill. So we've got the options if we want. At the moment I've taken it. You've got like the mastery here to have skills cost life instead of mana. We can take this extra node here to get the mana cost down, so we can get it manageable. This is kind of at the moment on a normal 6 link. That'd only go up to about 13 or 14 with the fortify on the item. We are going to fit in a large cluster with Feed the Fury and Martial Prowess just for some big damage. Like I mentioned, some small cluster to get reservation efficiency because we're going to need it. And then we're also going to replace our Lethal Pride with one that actually fits in the right slot. Hopefully with something like Intimidate and double damage. And then we're going to replace all of our rare jewels with some double crit multi-jewels. We may not be able to get them with life as well. I don't know how much it's going to be. But something like crit chance with 2-handed melee weapons and critical strike with Ellie skills. Or we could use critical strike with lightning skills and elemental skills. Just any combination of 2 crit multi and life is really what I'd be looking for. And then we can slot the other one in here. And then we're also going to run a Watcher's Eye with something like increased attack damage while affected by precision is probably the biggest bang for the buck. It's not massively expensive. I would think probably 2 divines for a half decent one. And I think that's kind of it. I don't think we need much else. So we've got here Replica Badge, Ralakesh, Lethal Pride, Watcher's Eye, Taming Ring, re-roll the Chaos Ring, which I'll give myself up to 2 divines for. That's kind of what we're looking to do. What we will need, because we are going to massively struggle for resistances with all of these uniques, is I'm going to drop Wrath. It doesn't do that much at this stage because we're not boosting aura effect up. It's probably like 15, 18% more damage. So we're going to drop it for Purity of Elements. This means my resistances will obviously be higher because you get resistances with the gem. And also it means I'm immune to Ellie ailment, so I don't have to worry anymore about, you know, ignite, chill, things like that. It just makes the build feel smoother. And then in terms of gem links, we are going to have to fit in increased crit damage. So we'll need to drop a gem. Awakened Added Cold is probably going to be the one that I drop. I like Lightning because at level 5, it gives us +1 to Vile Smite. If we can then double corrupt a Vile Smite to get 20/20, it's again decent damage. But for now, just a 20 unqualityed is fine. And that's what I want to do. So we will finish the POB. We'll go and actually buy the gear. We'll put it all on and then we'll take it for a test run. So I've just had to rejig my gems. I actually had 2 Molten Shells in that I didn't realize. So our defenses aren't going to be amazing. This is with Molten Shell up. If we take Molten Shell off, you see Max Fizz hit 14.5 with Flask up. Not exactly amazing. We take our Flask off and we're looking at, you know, 12.6. It's fine for mapping, but the next stage after this, probably in video 3, we'll be getting more life and trying to get some more tank into the build through things like reduce fizz damage through the body armor and maybe on a Watcher's Eye as well. There's lots of things we can do to get some more defenses into the build. Maybe if our DPS is good enough, we can drop the taming and get a big life ring, but they'll be kind of for the next episode. Okay, so I've bought all the gear. I spent literally all my currency, but a lot of it was wasted doing stupid things. The first thing that I shouldn't have done was try to recolor this body armor to 3 blue, 3 red, because Fortify Stun doesn't even work, so I've had to slot a Fortify gem in here in the meantime anyway. So what I did was I re-rolled this until I hit 2 blue, 4 red. Then I actually spent loads of money in Harvest, turning one socket into white, because I got like a 4 in 6 chance of it turning a red one. It didn't, it turned to blue. Turned out wasn't needed anyway, because I've had to slot Fortify support in here to get Fortify, because I don't really have another means of doing it now. I'm not pathing on the tree. So it looks like we are going to have to go Fortify on the sword at some point, but that'll be either in the next video or the one after. Rolling this ring cost a fortune. It probably cost me 4 divines. So maybe I should have looked on trade to see if there was something that would fit the bill, because this isn't amazing, but I got fed up spending currency on the ring. We did not end up going for the reservation cluster jewel. Instead, I just anointed sovereignty on my amulet. That gives me enough reservation. It means I can drop that small cluster jewel. And then I've just put one of my original jewels in, which is strength and intelligence, which I needed because I was still a tiny bit down on both. Attack speed, some crit chance, and then mana reservation efficiency. This wasn't a jewel I was particularly looking for when I bought it. It was only like 15C. Turns out fits the bill really nicely. I've had to drop the mastery for 15% suppression if you've got evasion and everything, because Rakiata do not have evasion. So I've had to take the lucky chance to make up for it. I re-rolled some implicit, so I'll push my mana reservation up, push my reduced mana cost of attacks up, and then push my spell suppression up. Again, shouldn't have really done on the gloves because they're a bad base, but it is what it is. They'll do for now. So there's not really any changes. Had to slot Fortify Gem in. We've gone for Sovereignty on the amulet. Full POB will be in the video description anyway. But overall, we've got some more points to go on the tree, so we can go here for some extra aura effects. But I think what we'll probably do is drop this mastery here, maybe drop a life node, get another couple of levels, and then we'll put a crit medium cluster in here, because I'm capped on, I've got all my things up, like Assassin's Mark, Flask, and Tinctures. But without that, it hovers between like 65 to 80%. A medium crit cluster can boost that up. It also gives us another 5% double damage. So that's probably an aim for the next episode. And there's not really any other changes. Life could definitely be do with being higher, but it's very hard to get a ton of life. And when you run in some boots that don't have life, we've got this amulet that doesn't have life, and then the taming doesn't have life either. So it's very difficult to get like a big life pool. We also don't have like a shield because we're two-hander. So hopefully we'll push up to 4,000 at some point, but it's very unlikely to get much higher than that. But yeah, that's the build finished with the upgrades. No idea what it cost because I wasted so much currency. I would think maybe 20 divines is the cost to respec the tree, craft my jewels, craft my ring, buy everything else that I needed. So hopefully we're now good to go. So what we'll do is we'll just go and do a map. So I do need to do a conqueror. So we'll go and do this one first. Jungle Valley, it's quite a nice map. I'm just running it on a just a map farming tree. And I do need this for my favorite slot. So we'll go and complete this. Didn't even break a sweat. So because you don't have movement speed on Rakiata is kind of, it is noticeable, but then you can leap slam everywhere anyway, so it's not too bad. Obviously, this map's probably not ideal for it, but... And then we do lose a fair amount of damage, probably like 1 to 2 million DPS because we're deciding to run Fortify because it was too late to do anything else. I've got no currency left to go through any other options. Like, single target's better, but it does feel slower. And then hopefully on like bosses with tinctures and flasks up and Assassin's Mark, single target should hopefully be decent, but we're about to find out. Yeah, it definitely feels a million times more damage. Well, not a million times, that's probably slightly over the top, but... Yeah, that's pretty good. I'm happy with that. So we can definitely zoom on now and do like Uber or Maven when I actually get the currency to get the fragments. Then what we'll probably do next episode is do a early 4 voidstone farming strategy. Maybe avoid delirium just because I've done it all the time, just because it pays really, really well. And then hopefully we'll be able to push into T17s on this setup. We just need a few tweaks here and there to make it a little bit more defensive. But overall, yeah, that's how the build is feeling at the moment. Feels very nice. That map also had enfeeble, temp chains, and then, yeah, ton of extra damage and attack speed. So overall, I'm really happy with that damage. Just unlocked another favorite slot, which is nice. So yeah, next episode is just going to be carrying on. What I will do at the beginning of the next video, again, as I have done this one, is identify the upgrades that I want to make and I want to farm in the next video. So before we sign off for the video, I'll just very quickly go through the gear just to explain how the build comes together rather than you having to kind of work it out from the path of building. Then I'll just show some highlights at the end of some more maps that I've done, a 10-way, a Influence Elder map, and then Maven, just to show kind of what the build can do at this stage. But in terms of gear, it's Rakiata's Dance because this inverts resistances and gives a ton of LE damage. Ralikesh's Impatience combined with Badger the Brotherhood means we're always at our maximum endurance, frenzy, and power charges, so none of the downsides of the amulet matter, and that's what allowed us to drop Masterful Form, so then we can take Overwhelm because we need the crit. You're going to need a decent crit tincture and a diamond flask. They don't have to be up all of the time because mapping, you're going to obliterate stuff anyway. You just use them on bosses and you should be able to burst them down in seconds. If you can fit one in, Taming Ring is really good. If you can also get fire, cold, and lightning damage in the build, you'll get more damage. You'll get cold and lightning from the sword. I haven't been able to get fire damage in because the only way I can really get it is on the ring, and this ring would have been super, super expensive to try and get fire damage along with life, non-channeling skills, and chaos resistance. But the rest of the gear is just satisfying your attributes and resistances. Remember to swap Wrath for Purity of Elements or you're really, really going to struggle for resistances. I'm still with Illyra. Once I get my resistances a bit higher, then I can go to the extra skill point. And then for your implicits, you do need some mana reservation, because the lower or the more available mana you've got, the better your tinctures are going to work. Utilize the mana nodes on the tree here to get your costs down even more. And then other than that, yeah, that's kind of it. The build just works really, really nicely. All your flasks are automated. You have to use your tinctures at bosses, but other than that, it should be pretty smooth. The defenses are good enough. We want to get some more chaos resistance and probably some more fizz damage reduction. But at the moment, just with the bonuses we get from endurance charges and our armor and evasion and perseverance, it actually works quite well as a defensive setup. And I've not died too many times on this character. I've certainly not died in the last sort of 3 or 4 levels. So we'll just double check. Yeah, so died 6 times through the whole playthrough. So it's been pretty safe, but I haven't really done anything that taxing at the moment. Next video is probably going to be some sort of destructive play, probably still with Delirium, even though I said I would go away from it. The orbs are just so good and they drop all the time. But it's going to be a destructive play because things like Elder Fragments and the Conqueror Fragments now go for pretty good prices. So once we start dropping some of those maps, we'll do some rotation so we can drop some Maven Writs, maybe some Awakened Gems. And that again should be good for some profit. So I'll leave you with just some highlights and then I'll catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching. Take care and see you in the next one.